back to my channel. So as I'm sure you've probably seen by the title of this video, today we're going to be talking about fragrances that I would not repurchase. And I guess I want to start off by saying that the reality is I would not repurchase the vast majority of the perfumes in my collection because I already have more perfume than I'm ever going to be able to use in a lifetime. So for me to want to repurchase a fragrance, it literally has to be totally extraordinary. I have to really be in love with the fragrance, and it has to be something that I can wear every day and never get sick of. So technically there are really only a few fragrances in my collection that I would genuinely repurchase. I wanted to limit this list to fragrances that are more recent / hyped up, but these are fragrances that I am almost certain I am not gonna be repurchasing once I go through them, if at all. And an ongoing theme that you might notice throughout this video is that the reason why a few of these fragrances are on this list is because I already got such big bottles of them that I don't foresee myself going through them at all. So I feel there's not even gonna be a need for me to repurchase them because I just don't wear them enough. Just because a fragrance is on this list doesn't mean that I think it's bad or I dislike the fragrance. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you are new to my channel, please make sure to subscribe. And if you are coming back, thank you as always so much for supporting me, and I'm very grateful to have you here. And without further ado, let's go over some of the perfumes that I would not repurchase. In no particular order, we're starting off with My Way Parfum by Giorgio Armani. This is a really pretty, just extremely elegant, classy, put together fragrance. It's super floral. It has a really strong iris note, and it also has a very prominent sweetness. It almost kind of gives me a green apple Jolly Rancher kind of sweetness, not in a super syrupy artificial candy kind of sweetness, but it's a very floral sweetness. I think that this is such a well-made fragrance, but the reason why I would not repurchase this is because one, and this is one of the fragrances on this list I feel is kind of suffering from success, but it is such a potent, strongly performing fragrance that this is a 50 ml bottle, but as you can see, I have not used very much of it at all because it's so strong. When I do decide to wear this fragrance, 2 sprays is all I can handle before it becomes way too overpowering. It really is such a strong fragrance that lingers on my clothes for days and days on end, and it projects so much that I just don't wear it too much. And I would say it doesn't work perfectly with my skin chemistry. That's something that I noticed with the original Giorgio Armani My Way, is that even though the fragrance is really beautiful and has this delicious bubblegum sweetness, it just did not mesh well with my skin chemistry at all. This one definitely does a lot better with my skin, but it's still not perfect. There's still a hint of something that just smells a little bit cloying on my skin, and so I don't wear this fragrance too much, but I still think it's really well made. And especially if you're looking for something that is super beast mode and is a compliment magnet, this is definitely a good fragrance to go for. For me personally, I would not be repurchasing it. Next up on the list is Kayali's Yum Pistachio Gelato. I have very ardently expressed my distaste for this fragrance in previous videos, so I'm not going to dwell on this for long, but this fragrance is just really disappointing and misleading to me because it doesn't smell like any of the primary notes that were used to promote the fragrance. This perfume was painted to be this delicious, mouth-watering, lactonic, marshmallowy pistachio gelato. And here, let me redo some of the notes that are listed on the back. It's pistachio gelato, hazelnut, sweet rum, whipped cream, marshmallow, and cotton candy. It sounds so delicious, but then when you actually smell the fragrance, in fact, here, I'll spray some just so I can get a reminder of what it smells like, so I'm not talking out of my ass. It smells so lemony. There's something so fresh and citrusy in the opening that especially on my skin, it smells like some kind of lemony cleaning detergent or cleaning spray. I would say as it sits, I maybe get a little bit more of the sweetness from the cotton candy. This just does not really smell like pistachio to me. It has a tiny bit of nuttiness in the background, but most of all, I'm smelling something very green, very aromatic, citrusy, and herbal. this to me does not smell like a pistachio gelato. And so it's a shame that I have such an enormous bottle of it because I literally am never gonna get through this. The next perfume that I would not repurchase is Cosmic by Kylie Jenner. So again, this is a huge bottle of perfume. This is so much fragrance that despite having owned this fragrance for, I don't even know how long, I would say like maybe almost a year now, this is how much I have of it left. Pretty much it's completely full and I barely wear this. Cosmic is a pleasant enough smelling fragrance. There's nothing about it that is off-putting to me. I think that it's just very crowd pleasing. It's definitely very reminiscent of Good Girl by Carolina Herrera to me. So just something very sweet, ultra feminine and perfumey and really likable, but it smells really basic to me and I just don't reach for it. I think every now and then I will grab it to like layer on top, but I would never wear this fragrance on its own just because it feels very unspectacular to me and it kind of lacks personality. So this is not like a fragrance that I love. It's just like, okay. It's not too expensive, but I do not see myself repurchasing this ever. But there is actually a new Cosmic 2.0 that I believe has already dropped. Probably not going to be getting it, but I am kind of interested in smelling it in person. So next time I go to an Ulta, I'll see if that one's better than the original. But on that note, yeah, it's not a bad fragrance, but I just wouldn't buy it again. Next up is a really hyped up fragrance release from 2024. This is Yara Candy by Lattafa. This was all over my TikTok For You page for the longest time, and I was actually gonna make like a dedicated review on this fragrance, but I never felt the motivation because I personally just didn't like love the fragrance. What I will say is that I do enjoy the fragrance, and I would say this is probably my favorite flanker out of the Yara line. I'm kind of on the fence between Yara Candy and the original Yara. This fragrance it's sweet. It definitely is candy-like, hence the name, but it's nothing spectacular. This is not a fragrance that I get a whiff of and instantly I'm like, oh my god, like something smells really good, because it just doesn't. Like it smells pleasant and kind of predictable. If you have ever smelled the sweet pea scent from Bath and Body Works, this smells super similar to that. So just kind of, it's just like a sweet floral fragrance. Obviously it does have a prominent like strawberry fizz candy note, so it does have like this really tart strawberry gummy kind of scent, but at the same time it has florals in there. It's definitely quite woody and it just smells really linear. Yeah, I feel like this fragrance, even though I do think it's a good fragrance, but I feel like this perfume kind of struggles to have like a unique identity. It's like kind of leaning towards floral and woody and like really reminding me of Sweet Pea from Bath and Body Works, but at the same time it has some sweet gourmand like strawberry candy notes that just make it smell it just kind of smells like a hand sanitizer or like a hand soap. And yeah, it's not my favorite. Again, this is a huge bottle. All of the Yaras come in this giant 3.4 ounce bottle. I will not be repurchasing this Yara. But to be honest, if they do come out with another Yara flanker, will I buy it? Probably, but I wouldn't repurchase this one specifically. Next up on the list is Dolce & Gabbana's Devotion. So I believe I spoke on this fragrance a little bit in my vanilla fragrances video, but I used to be super in love with this fragrance. I remember when I first smelled it in Ulta, I was just like holding onto the test strip the entire time I was in the store, and I could not stop thinking about it. It was just this like delicious, beautiful, fluffy, vanilla, lemony pound cake, and it was so divine and decadent to me. But now there's something in this that just smells plasticky to me. While the most prominent thing I smelled was always the lemon pound cake, in the back of my mind I always like just a little bit thought that this smelled like some sort of like kitchen spray, some sort of lemony cleaning product. But in the past it wasn't too prominent, and I still really enjoyed the gourmand notes that make up most of this fragrance. But nowadays I'm smelling more and more of that kind of cleaning product vibe. It just smells more plasticky, and I just don't enjoy this fragrance the way that I used to. I still think it's beautiful. I still think that this is a really crowd-pleasing fragrance just because of how delicious the gourmand elements in this fragrance are. But for me, it just doesn't really work anymore, and I genuinely cannot recall like the last time that I reached for it because it just kind of gives me a headache now, unfortunately. So yeah, I would not repurchase Devotion. And since we're going through some really popular designer lavender vanillas. I would not repurchase Burberry Goddess, and I actually really like this fragrance. The reason why I wouldn't repurchase it is this is not a fragrance that I feel like I can wear every day and not get sick of. I'll wear this fragrance once, and because it performs really well, I'll smell it like all throughout the day. But then by the end of the day, I just get really sick of it because it has a very like distinct, light, perfumey smell. And then like it'll be like weeks until I reach for it again because it's very strong. It's a beautiful fragrance, and I just feel like when I do go through this bottle, which I do see myself going through because this is only like a 1 fluid ounce, it's very tiny, and so at some point I am probably gonna finish it up. If I want something with like a similar vibe, I would rather just go for Maud Vanilla because that's literally like my ride or die fragrance. It's a lot more gourmand. It's more of a creamy, edible vanilla, whereas this one, it's very aromatic. And so if I want something in that kind of territory, I would just get Maud Vanilla. And then on that note, I know Lattafa has like a really good dupe for this fragrance. I believe it's called like Angham. But if I was for some reason like really wanting this specific DNA and I ran out of this, I would probably just get that dupe because it's like so much cheaper. But yeah, it's such a beautiful bottle. It's a beautiful fragrance. It really is so divine in the way that a goddess is, and it smells so feminine and classy and beautiful, and it's a really well done blend of lavender and vanillas. Next up, I would not repurchase Musk Noir Rose by Narciso Rodriguez. And also, this is so off topic, but I literally like shattered the cap when I dropped this fragrance off my shelf, and so the cap doesn't even like function anymore. So I'm a clown. But like you can literally see how much of this fragrance I've used. I don't even know how I have so much of it left. Like I feel like I've worn this fragrance a good amount, but apparently not. The volume speaks for itself. This is actually a really nice fragrance. It's so inoffensive and I feel like good for any occasion. It's really mature and sophisticated and just a really beautiful, sensual fragrance. But I don't know, I just clearly I don't reach for it, and when am I ever gonna get through this giant bottle? Like I just don't see it happening, and yeah, because of that I wouldn't buy this fragrance again. But I do think it's really nice, so I want to hopefully wear it a little bit more and not let all of the juice go to waste. And the last two fragrances on my list are actually from Ariana Grande's line, and honestly I would say the only fragrances in her collection that I would for sure consistently buy again and again are Cloud, Maud Vanilla, and probably Pink Woods. The majority of them, like, I would never get through a full bottle anyways, but these two in particular are more recent releases, so I did want to touch on them a little bit. The first one is gonna be Maud Blush. This is a really pretty, fresh, fruity fragrance. There's something in this though that just smells so cologne-y. Like on one hand, when you first smell the fragrance, it is like, it's really feminine, like it smells like the color pink, but then kind of like the way the passion fruit note interacts with, I guess, some of the floral notes, it gives it like a very cologne-y kind of feel that almost makes it smell unisex, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just like me personally, I don't like the smell of cologne or anything that is like really reminiscent of cologne. And so this, I just don't really reach for it. It just doesn't really do it for me. I think it's a really pleasant scent, but I don't think I'm ever gonna get through this bottle, even though it's only like a single fluid ounce. And lastly is Cloud Pink by Ariana Grande. And this might actually kind of come as a shock because I do love this fragrance. And I think this one is the most like for a personal reason rather than there's something inherently wrong with how the fragrance smells or like there's something that doesn't work with my nose. Like no, like this is a beautiful, stunning fragrance that I think is so well made and delicious and such a good addition to the Cloud line. But the reason is when I first got this fragrance and also made the video on it, which was not last summer, but the one before, I think. I actually got the fragrance when I was going through some of like the most awful and traumatic life changes, and this was one of the things that like really kept my mood up during the time. Like I was so in love with this fragrance and I would wear it every day, like non-stop. Like literally this was the only fragrance I wore for like at least a month straight. And so nowadays when I smell this fragrance, like I immediately like subconsciously associate it with times in my life that were a lot worse, and it just brings up some like negative memories, or like not, it doesn't even always like bring up the memories. Like scent is such a powerful thing, and it can really evoke some really powerful emotions so quickly. And so this just brings me back to like a really negative place in my life filled with a lot of grieving and mourning, and it's such a shame because it smells so beautiful. I just can't wear this fragrance anymore. Not that I can't wear it. First of all, this is very much like a summer fragrance. It's very sweet and fresh and fruity, and I would say the tropical and coconut water notes give it a really just like appropriate for summer kind of sweetness. But yeah, I like am low-key re-traumatized every time I smell this fragrance, so I don't wear it anymore, and I wouldn't buy it again because of that. I would opt to just get the original Cloud. I think that would work a lot better for me. It's totally not because of the scent itself, but it's just like a me thing for this fragrance personally. So those are some perfumes in my collection that I would not repurchase. And again, if I'm being completely honest, I would not repurchase like the vast majority of perfumes in my collection. But I did want to touch on these because these are all fragrances that I actually like and I think are good fragrances, besides maybe this one, and are like pretty hyped up and talked about fragrances. Let me know what fragrances in your collection you would not buy again, and if you agree with any of the picks that I had in this video. I hope you're all well. Make sure to like the video if you liked it, and like the video if you didn't. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon.